All I know is after being raised by foreign parents in America, serving in the U.S. military, living as a stranger in a strange land and having to learn a completely new and completely different language as an adult, and serving almost 30,000 people in service to this. I know that everybody has an opinion and has something to say, for better or for worse. We're alive, we're experiencing life, and we've formed opinions. But more importantly, we've learned a few life lessons along the way. When I was a teenager, my parents sent me off to a child therapist, a pediatrician. Long story. It was uncomfortable at first because I didn't have any say so in the matter, and I felt as if it were a me against the world situation, being attacked by the adults, so on and so forth. But the therapist soon suggested that we'd go from group sessions to one on one meetings. And of course, that was much better. I opened up to her much more, and there I was, this kid sitting in her office, and a sophisticated medical woman in the city. She was from New York City, and I was very impressed by that. And although it was a strict clinical sterile setting, she was cool, and I never felt intimidated or anything. One day, I brought up my love of music and songs. She admitted to me something that shocked me. She told me that she couldn't remember any melodies of songs. None. And I looked at her in disbelief. I thought I tried to make sure, and I asked her, even the Beatles? She shook her head. Nope. I was still impressed with her, and though she was very smart, I thought at that moment, that's the saddest thing I've ever heard in my life. I felt terribly sorry for her in that aspect. I mean, how could someone who could hear fine but not be able to retain any melodies of the most beautiful gifts the world has to offer? I respected her, but I looked at her differently from that point. To this day, I never forgot that. Over the years, as my love of music naturally increased and solidified into my life, styles of popular music also continued to shape into commercial genres. And as I met people all over the world, I would want to know more about what type of music this person would listen to. Did they even listen to music, or were they like my doctor? Didn't even remember music. And it's funny, if you ask a range of people, what kind of music do you like? You'll often get the same answer, that dreaded answer. I don't know. So I would forego that question, and I would start developing a habit of asking people a different way in the hopes of landing a more definitive answer. Now, in the 90s, it was easy because mostly everybody had a CD collection. And with that in consideration, I'd ask, okay, if we were to look at your CD right now, open your CD right now, which CD will we find in there? And that would help gauge what type of person I was dealing with. Not literally, of course, but and not that they had to talk or dress in that particular genre style of music, but that one icebreaker did shed some insight into their personality of the person I was dealing with. And that's regardless of the setting. And it's a great starting point to get to know someone. Nowadays, however, I'm not going to get anywhere with asking people about the CD players, since anybody who listens to music is getting it from streaming or on YouTube. You can ask about playlists, but that's still going to elicit an I don't know. Um, Even with dozens to hundreds of songs on a playlist, people will also often be hesitant to or be challenged to recall one song or one band. So now I've reverted one more time and I gauge what kind of person I'm talking to by asking, what was the last concert you saw? Now you have to explain to them that you're looking for an established act, not some band at a bar or one shoehorned into a festival with a roll call of bands. If someone has paid their hard earned money to see a band or a performer, they really like their music. Recently, this has helped narrow down their selection, with the exception of COVID being the great reset button of our time. Some people haven't been to a concert setting in a very long time. They can't even remember the last time they went to a concert. For the record, my last concert that I saw was U2 at the United Center, and that was in 2015. So music and songs that resonate with the person is my favorite way to start a conversation. And it's neutral and it can be educational for me too, because I can also learn all kinds of things about other music that I wasn't aware of. And from there, we get into other aspects of life. And that's what we'll do on my podcast. We'll talk about music and life and what we've learned. We'll share some stories, things I know, things I like, the city of Chicago, acoustic guitar, all things in general. Now, with a podcast talking about music and, of course, life, a fitting name would be something along the lines of liner notes or songs in the key of life or stories and songs or even the hook. I think that'd be a great name. And those would be perfect names. However, those names are already taken because they're perfect names for podcasts that talk about music. Other people are already doing that. So that is why I'm going to go with two words that signify the main themes of what I'm going to talk about. Alive, pertaining to the fact that we're living our lives and learning lessons. Therefore, that's keeping us alive. We're learning, we're breathing. And acoustic, for the type of music that I love to play on my acoustic guitar. I'll play some arrangements of songs that I love and may even collaborate with some other guitarists and musicians who will want to share their talent and their life lessons with us. I plan to have a range of people. All I know is I don't know everything, but I do know some things. One thing I do know is I can't do everything myself, but I can ask others to participate. I can ask you to join me on my podcast, Alive and Acoustic.